Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Gladstone City Council for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. It's 6:30 p.m. City of Gladstone is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires the governing body of the public body, that means the city council for the city, to the extent reasonably possible, to make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide opportunity for members of the general public to remotely submit oral and written testimony during meetings to the extent in-person oral and written testimony is allowed. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public both in person and virtually using the Zoom platform. Zoom platform instructions are on the agenda for the meeting. If members of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, either virtually or in person, they were to have emailed their comments or their request to speak to the city recorder prior to noon today. Individuals attending in person may submit a speaker card to the city recorder prior to the beginning of the meeting, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. By the same token, the City Council will also have Gladstone City event announcements during the meeting and business from the audience at the end of the meeting. To speak during either time, the rules are similar. You to have emailed the city recorder prior to noon today with your name, topic of discussion, and city of residence. Individuals attending in person may submit a speaker card to the city recorder prior to the beginning of the meeting, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Huckabee.
Present.
Councillor Mitchell.
Present.
Councillor Loud.
Present.
Councillor Labonte.
Present.
Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Councillor Garlington.
Present.
Mayor Milch.
Present. Please stand for the flag salute. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Administrator Betts, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Just wanted to have one correction to the agenda. I've made you aware for it. This is for the public, that in relations to item number 10, approval of the urban renewal meeting minutes of July 23rd, we had to correct a couple of Scribner's errors in those minutes. You should have an amended copy at your dais for your approval tonight.
Thank you very much. Everybody got that copy? We'll get to that on item 10. All right, first item on our agenda, as usual, is the consent agenda, which includes the approval of January 14th, 2025 and February 11, 2025 regular minutes, approval of the January bank balances, the budget report for the period ending January 31st, the approval of the January check register, the department head monthly reports for the month of February, approval of an OLCC, that's Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission, change of ownership for Stanley's Corner on McLaughlin Boulevard. Approval of the same document, a new application from the same agency for the Arlington Tap House on Arlington Street. And that is our consent agenda. Would any councilors like to remove an item from the consent agenda, or is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I would like to remove an item.
Okay, Councilor Blaug.
I would like to remove the approval of the February 11th regular minutes. I would like a more detailed scribe of those minutes. And I have communicated that with Administrator Betts as well. So.
Okay, so you'd like more detailed transcription of all of the minutes or a portion of the minutes?
The portion of the minutes that describes our previous conversation around proclamation process. So that'd be number 15 on page 1-7.
Okay, so with that request, we'll pull the approval of the February 11 meeting minutes from the consent agenda. Does anyone else? Councilor Garlington.
I'd like to pull item 6.
Item 6 is the approval of the OLCC change of ownership for Stanley's Corner. Okay. So anything else? We'll remove those two items, and Is there a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the remainder of the consent agenda with the exception of the February 11th minutes and item 6. A motion made by Councilor Huckabee and seconded by Councilor Garlington. Any further discussion? Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Mitchell,
Present. Oh, yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte.
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the amended consent agenda is approved. Is there any objection to fulfilling Councilor Blau's request to get further detail on the transcription of that one section of the February 11th meeting minutes?
I would just like to add that I would prefer that it be verbatim.
Okay, with that clarification, Councilor Garlington?
Did that not make it on the video?
We're talking about the written minutes?
It was the conversation recorded on a video.
Yes, it's on the website.
Okay.
All right, so that's not an item we have to approve as a council. That's just something that will, so the action on the minutes would be for the approval. We're just asking for greater clarity in the minutes, and we'll bring that up at a future meeting when we can get that transcription done.
Yeah, so you removed the February 11th meeting. We will have verbatim minutes transcribed around the proclamation section and bring those back to the April meeting for consideration.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Now, item 6 is in your packet. And Councilor Garlington requested we pull that. Let's get into it a little more. Consent agenda is usually items that we don't expect there to be much disagreement on, and that's why they're in an agenda where we can do a whole bunch of them at one time. But sometimes there are issues that we want to explore. So Councilor Garlington, I'll turn it over to you to ask any question you have or get any clarification you need.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a phone call on my way home and somebody asked me, did Stanley's Corner change ownership, or is it just the license itself that is changing ownership? And I said, I'll find out.
It is a change of ownership.
Of the entire
Correct.
business. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And if it sounds like deja vu, I think we had this recently, right? This is
Yes.
the second change in a relatively short time.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, if you look on page 6.2, there is a section in the middle that says change of ownership. And it would be easy to confuse this with just a duplicate of what we did before, but it is definitely a different owner.
Well, yes, and I didn't know, like I said, if it was the business, the whole business. My apologies. I was not clear, or I was not able to confirm or not confirm whether or not it was just the license or the entire business. So thank you for that clarity and moving forward.
Okay, so that item 6 now stands alone for your approval and consideration. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding item 6?
I will make a motion that we pass item 6 on the consent agenda.
Well, it's off the consent agenda now, so if you want to look at page 6.1 and
Okay.
just kind of make the motion
I would like
under the
to-
staff recommendation at the bottom of that page.
I recommend that the city council approve the change of ownership application to the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission, OLCC, for Stanley's Corner, 19905 McLaughlin Boulevard.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Garlington and seconded by Councilor Mitchell. Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Tammy, call the roll, please.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the change of ownership is approved, or the application to OLCC regarding the change. Well, we don't have any say whether they change owners or not, but we can approve the OLCC application. Okay, that brings us to correspondence, and I did want to say that I believe all the city councilors did get correspondence by email from a member of the public who is in attendance tonight regarding item 15 on our agenda. And so that may end up in the public record. I think you provided a copy, as I understand. So just so we're aware of that in case it gets referenced a little later on. This is the time when we usually have Gladstone City event announcements. Has anyone requested to do an announcement?
I have not received any requests.
Okay, and is anyone online to asking to make an announcement at this time?
I do not see any hands raised, and I have not received any requests via Zoom.
Okay, well, we may hear some announcements from councilors later on in the meeting. In the meantime, we'll move on to our regular agenda, which includes the 23-24 fiscal audit for the city. We will then adjourn to the Urban Renewal Agency, approve previous minutes, and look at their fiscal audit as well. And then we'll go back to being the city council and look at our city council goals for 25 and 26. Consider approval of an intergovernmental agreement regarding some improvements at the Gladstone Nature Park. We will have appointment to boards, commissions, and committees, and we will continue our discussion of implementing a proclamation process. So we go to item 9, which is the fiscal audit for the city of Gladstone, and I turn this over to staff, and we have some support staff here as well to help with that.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I'm going to turn this over to our finance consultant, Kathy Brucker, who will do introductions of the city's auditors and walk you through the process.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all of you. The approval of the City of Gladstone annual financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024 in front of you, the very thick item in the packet there. And as you know, we're required to prepare and file these annually with the Secretary of State Audit Division, relating and sharing with them the financial condition of the city. Singer Luack Accountants, our city auditors, completed the audit of the financial statements, then met with the City of Gladstone Audit Committee on Monday, February 24, 2025 for review and discussion. Due to lack of a quorum, the audit committee took no action at that time. So the annual filing with the State Audit Division was completed within the approved extension timeline. And Kathy Wilson, the Director of Assurance and Advisory, will present the report to you tonight, along with Fierce Katok, who is the manager on the job also. So with that, I turn it over to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and Fierce is here as well. I'm going to let him lead the discussion, but I did want to start off by letting you know that the audit went very smoothly, and I wanted to thank staff and Kathy and Jackie for all of their assistance during the audit. We had no issues getting the information that we needed in order to be able to complete things in order, and I will turn it over to Fierce.
Kathy, am I going to be allowed to share my screen? Sorry. Currently,
Tammy, will he?
I'm working on making you co-host right now.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right. Hopefully you all are seeing my screen that I'm sharing right now. All right. So on the first part of the packet that is in your is printed, is probably a big portion of that packet, is the auditor's report for the financial statements of the City of Gladstone. We would like to report that our opinion on that one is a clean opinion. We're saying that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects, in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So we call that a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion. Towards the end of that report, all the way to page 98 on the PDF. We also give an auditor's report required by the Oregon state regulations. And this one is a negative form of opinion. We're basically saying that in connection with our testing in relation to the Oregon revised statutes, nothing came to our attention that caused us to believe that the city was not in substantial compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants as stated by ORS. Another part of our report is with regards to the ARPA money, or the funds received from the American Rescue Plan Act. And there was quite a sum that was received and spent during FY 2024. And because it exceeds the threshold of 750,000, the city is required to be under a single audit or an examination engagement if only the ARPA money is the highest value in the federal expenditures. And with regards to the ARPA examination that we perform, in our opinion, the city complied in all material respects with the specified requirements or compliance requirements during the year June 30, 2024. So there were no findings noted in that examination. The third part of our audit packet would be the required communication that we issue every year to those charged with governance. And when we say those charged with governance, those are the mayor and the city council of the city of Gladstone. So that letter would have detail our responsibilities with regards to the audit, an overview of our plan, scope, and timing, any significant accounting practices, policies, estimates, and disclosures that we wanted to communicate with you. There are two items in here that we wanted to emphasize during this meeting. One is on the audit adjustments and uncorrected misstatements. The first section of that is there is only one audit adjustment that we made for this year, and that involves the water and sewer funds. And this is a prior period adjustment. That means the prior periods have been misstated. And so it isn't that material. It was only 83,000 and 73,000 for water and sewer funds, respectively. But the error arose way back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. It arose from the adoption of the standard wherein adoption of the new standards regarding pension and OPEB, wherein a certain expenditure was booked under the budgetary fund statements instead of the gap level statements. And so that error was carried over for years, and that has been corrected in FY 2024. And moving forward, that error should not recur. There are also two other misstatements that we pass because they are not material as per management. The first one is the receivable from the opioid settlement. So currently, anything that was received in regards to the opioid settlement is recorded as revenue when received. There is, however, an expectation that there are some funds that will be received in the next few years. In fact, this opioid settlement is for a period of 15 years. And so because of the fact that it's for a period of 15 years, the collectability of those funds is questionable. And so there is not an accrual of those AR for those 15 years. And we estimate that to be around 279,000. So we passed that adjustment as concurred by management. Another one is on the estimated unbilled utility receivables. And this is just mainly due to timing of cutoff. Basically, when a bill is issued for your electricity or water and sewer, the cutoff period for that is on the 15th of the month, but our year end is on the 30th of the month. So those 15 days would need to be accrued but since the impact of that is immaterial and this is consistently done every year, we passed the adjustment. So the previous auditors have already passed this adjustment, and we are also passing this adjustment, and likely is going to recur every year. I would withhold the information regarding the URA during the URA section. I'll turn it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Fierce. Oh, sorry. Which Kathy?
Yes, exactly. Kathy Wilson, thank you.
Okay, great. I just want to reiterate, the opioid settlement monies are estimated by Department of Justice, and they are coming from the federal opioid monies that are being distributed to the states. And because the majority of those monies are coming from pharmaceutical companies, the likelihood of payment is very unknown. And it's over the course of the next 15 years. And so management has determined that that receivable is potentially not collectible. And if there was a portion that was collectible, it's probably not material. And so we agreed with management regarding this adjustment. And the prior period adjustment that was recorded, the net difference that actually ended up in the financial statements in the budgetary reports is just shy of $10,000. And so water was over, sewer was under, the net of the two are about 10,000. And this was carried from year to year because the reconciliation that was being done from the budgetary level to the fund statement level to the proprietary net position reports in the front of the packet was being done on changes in net position and not done on the balance sheet balances and actually reconciling out the net position. So that's the reason why it was carried from year to year to year, because you wouldn't know that you had this change if you did it that way. So I just wanted to clarify that. All right, we are open for any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Fierce. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for the explanation. It just occurs to me, if you find a 7-year-old error in something that, that means you did a very thorough job of examining our books. So we appreciate that. And I'm grateful for the clarification of some of these unusual items like that opioid settlement fund. It's not as clear and direct and predictable a source of income as most of what the city gets. And so thank you for understanding the appropriate way to categorize it. And let me see if there are any other questions from members of the council. Kathy Brucker, I have a question for you. You indicated that we did not have a quorum of the audit committee on the night we had a presentation, and so no action was taken. Is there any action that would have been required by the audit committee? Is that going to slow down our ability, or was their action typically a recommendation to bring it to the council?
It is a recommendation to bring to the council. It's nothing that slows it down if we don't, if we have no quorum and we're not able to do that.
Okay, I like to involve the members of our advisory committees as much as we can on this issue. For some reason, we didn't have everyone there, but at least we can still bring this and act on it tonight.
Correct.
So let's look at our packet and see what action we need to take. Any other questions? Would someone like to look at page 9-1 and make a motion regarding the recommended staff action?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the City of Gladstone annual financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Garlington and seconded by Councilor Labonte. Is that right? Okay. I looked over there and I couldn't tell which male voice it was coming out of. All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Councilor Labonte,
Yes.
Councilor Blau,
Yes.
Councilor Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilor Roberts,
Yes.
Councilor Huckabee,
Yes.
Councilor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. So the financial statements are approved. Now I will adjourn as a Gladstone City Council and re-adjourn as the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency. And fortunately, it's all the same people. So we're all in place. And now we will take a look at a report regarding, first of all, since this is the first time we've met as an urban renewal agency since last July, we need to approve the minutes. And we received updated, corrected minutes tonight, and you have them. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding these minutes?
I will make a motion that we approve the amended minutes as well as the original minutes for both meetings as presented.
Very good. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from our previous 2 urban renewal agency meetings. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor, Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the minutes are approved. And now we move to the action item for this agency, which is back to our audit and finance staff regarding the audit report for the Urban Renewal Agency.
Pardon me. Thank you very much once again. It's the same protocol as it was for the city, but this time it is the Urban Renewal Agency that we are requesting approval of the annual financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 24. These again are filed with the Secretary of State Audit Division and were completed within the approved time extensions. And other than that, there really is nothing more to say about these. Urban Renewal Agency is included in the financial statements for the city, but because it is a separate district, we do have to file a separate report for it also. Were Fierce or Kathy, was there anything additional that you'd like to share?
It would be the same conclusion as the city audit report, wherein the auditor's report states that there is a unmodified or clean opinion. And regarding the ORS, nothing has also came to our attention regarding non-compliance matters.
Okay. Very good, thank you. So we would request once again the same motion of approval of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency financial reports as of June 30th, 2024.
All right. Is there a motion from an Urban Renewal Agency director regarding this action?
Thank you, Kathy, and Fierce. I would make a motion that we approve the GURA annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024.
I will second that.
All right. It's been moved by Director Roberts and seconded by Director Garlington. I don't know if director's agent. It's an agency. I'll call you Agent Roberts. Oh, well, that's cool. And Agent Garlington. 007 down there. Okay. That we approve the financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024. Any further discussion? Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte.
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. The Urban Renewal Agency financial reports are approved. Thank you, Kathy Brucker. Thank you, Kathy and Fierce from our new auditing team. We're pleased to get the same kind of results we were getting in the past. So that means we're doing things right. And we look forward to your involvement in maybe next year. So thanks very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Mayor, on a light note, it was brought
Yes.
to my attention based off our council position seat numbers. You are 007.
Oh, that's right.
I
Okay.
am 005. You are 007.
Thank you very much for that clarification. How are we doing on time? Everybody still with us? All right, we will move on to item number 12, to consider approval of the Gladstone City Council goals for 25-27. And Administrator Betts, I believe you'll be presenting this item.
I'd
Mayor.
be happy to. All
Mayor.
of you,
Oh,
Sorry to
yes. Oh, I'm
interrupt.
sorry. I need to adjourn as an urban renewal agency and reconvene as the Gladstone City Council. Thank you, Chad, for keeping me on my toes. All right. Now we're a city council again. You may go ahead and present.
All right. In your packet, you have a copy of the city council proposed goals and action plan for the years 2025 through 2027. All of you were present through a great facilitated process that we had in January this year to talk about where our focus is going to be. I wanted to highlight the main goals are going to be economic development to create a robust economic ecosystem that supports the growth of all businesses and revitalizes Gladstone's downtown into an inviting destination. The second goal is infrastructure, to build a solid foundation of infrastructure to support future growth and meet current system demands, including a sustainable plan and stable financing for maintenance and upgrades. The third goal is communications and belonging, to develop a strong council and staff team working collaboratively to build trust and awareness in the community, to enhance engagement, cultivate a sense of belonging for all residents, and increase involvement of all ages and cultures. Number 4 is parks, to establish a clear understanding of parks funding and service structure, prioritize park improvement projects, and identify funding options. And number 6 is public safety, to maintain coverage for fire suppression and emergency services, enhance community emergency preparedness, ensure safe recreation opportunities in parks, and improve multimodal traffic safety. In your report, you will also see that we have implemented specific action items for each goal with a staff department lead and a timeline of when those goals will be completed. So we will vet these with the management team, who was also present for the council strategy planning session. And we will plan on bringing back updates to the city council in 6-month increments. So later this summer, we will bring back our first report. However, throughout the year, there are some policy decisions or contracts that will need to be approved pertaining to these goals. So we will also add those to future agenda. So unless the city council has any questions, we are asking for you to formally adopt the city council goals for 2025 and 2027.
All right. Are there questions from councilors about this process? Administrator Betts, I seem to recall that on some of these action items, we have in the past seen a little bit of longer description, more of a paragraph style. I may be mixing that up with the sort of summary reports that we've been getting at the, okay.
Yeah, so these are the action items, and I've developed a report template, and that is what you will get as updates every 6 months. So there will be more in-depth summary of the progress made on each action
Okay, so
item.
this is a good kind of shorthand bullet point thing to keep us in touch with everything, but the details of how the staff accomplish these goals are more internal, but we will hear about them when we get reports.
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else? Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the adoption of these goals? Yes, Councilor Garlandson, go ahead.
I'd just like to again thank the staff for giving up their day to do this with us. I'm supposing it is part of the job, but it was a productive day. We came up with good goals. We have a real good, clear vision of where we want to be moving down the road. Understanding that where we are is not the end. The end is much further as Gladstone grows is as a community and many, many years to come beyond us. So I appreciate that vision. And I also want to say that I appreciated the work that the staff, each and every member from the police department, the community center, the parks department, and your staff, Administrator Betts, just thank you all for doing this. For those that didn't get to spend 12 hours watching online our 2 days, it was a very productive 2 days, and very necessary for this council to set goals in order to move us forward for the next 2 years. So thank you again.
Thank you for saying that. Those of us who've had experience on the planning commission know that lots of times when we take action on something there, we look to a set of goals and see that what we're acting on is that fits with a goal, and it brings them back up before us. And I think it's good to have a document like this, because everything we do in the city, we can reflect back. Are we accomplishing part of what we set as a goal for ourselves? Councilor Blau, did you have another comment?
I just wanted to say that the SSW consulting was amazing. Like, they did a really great facilitating job. So
part of our goal, item, which one it is, right in the middle there, has to do with community engagement. And, it occurs to me that this team that worked so well on this task with us might also have some of the skills to work with the community a little bit. So going forward, if we ever decide to do a town hall meeting or another type of gathering where we bring the public in and get people engaged with one another, that we might call upon this same group for that, or consider other options. But it works so well for us, I think we feel good about it. All right. Did you have your light still on? Did you have anything else? That's fine. All right.
Like,
Let's hear a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the Gladstone City Council goals for 2025 to 2027.
right.
Second.
And Councilor Garlington made the motion. Councilor Mitchell seconded the motion to approve the council goals. Any further discussion? Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the council goals are approved as presented. We move on to our next item, which is regarding approval or consideration of approval of an intergovernmental agreement, an IGA, between the City of Gladstone and Metro for the 2019 Parks and Nature Bond Measure Local Share Program projects, which includes a restroom and picnic shelter at the Gladstone Nature Park. Do we have our Economic Development Director or Public Works Director present tonight, or are you going to present that?
You have your city administrator.
We have the city administrator, and we're always happy with her, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And given the uncertainty at the national level with federal funds, I want to give a little bit of history, because this IGA that we're entering into with Metro, the funds are not federally funded. So I wanted to make sure that all of you knew that this is a reliable source that is paid by the Metro residents. And this was the result of November 2019, the voters approved a ballot measure 26-203, which provided Metro to distribute 92 million of bond funds to local government. So this money is secure for the city of Gladstone moving forward. So prefacing with that, I wanted to say that this has been kind of a long process since 2023. There have been multiple conversations with Metro. They allocated $852,000 to Gladstone for specific projects that meet criteria with connecting people to nature. We had Metro out. We did site visits in 2023. We looked at our site plans to determine what the best use of those funds would be for. Your Parks and Recreations Board also had a presentation from Metro staff. They made recommendations to the City Council, and here was the areas of their priority on how those funds should be used. They said number one should be for restrooms and a picnic shelter at the Gladstone Nature Park. Also, gap funding for the Gladstone Nature Park paved loop trail project, 2 to 3 picnic shelters at Meldrum Bar Park, and then 88 access to restrooms and picnic tables in parks. So given that information, we came to the City Council, and the City Council also gave permission for staff to submit a request to Metro to use those funds for a picnic shelter and a restroom at the Gladstone Nature Park. In your packet, you have a copy of the IGA, and a copy of the application that we submitted to Metro. It's very comprehensive. It came in higher than we anticipated. And as you'll see, the cost estimate is approximately $780,000 to complete that work. So Metro provided us a detailed intergovernmental agreement. The next step is for the city council to approve that. We have the ability to ask for a 30% upfront cost if we want to for this project. I do believe that we will be doing that. However, we won't be doing that until July 1 because as we're now in the new budget process, we need to budget to receive this money and budget to expend it. And so if you have any other financial questions, Kathy Brucker has stayed on the line to answer how the reimbursement process works on this. So at this point, the city attorney has reviewed the IGA and we're asking for city council to give us approval so that we can move forward on this project.
One question I have, a lot of times when we get funds from grants, there's a match required. Does that apply to this particular?
There is no match for this money, which is great. But again, this was approved by the Metro residents. It's a bond and it's backed by their full faith and credit. And so, no, there's no match requirement.
Okay, that's good. Any other questions from members of the council? Councilor Labonte.
Sure, yes. So there's a chance we won't get that 30% on the front end. So we have to put in a request.
Yeah, you have to put in a request for the 30%. And I think Metro acknowledges that because cities like Gladstone are small.
Mm-hmm.
And that would give us some capital ahead of time to start working on the design and engineering phase of the project.
Mm-hmm. And it's my understanding those funds are geared towards the bathroom and the shelter. If let's say we are under budget and we have extra money from that, what's the process for using that money? And are those where that money goes? Are those decisions from, let's say, the park board in part, or does that just go to city priorities and parks?
I always love being under budget. I strive for that. If we are under budget, which we're hoping we are, because we would like to use some of that money for the other ones. Again, back in February of 2024, the council did prioritize those projects. However, if there's a cost savings, we would probably, as a courtesy, come back to council, have a check-in to say, this is how much of the remaining funds have changed or that we have. Have any of your priorities changed? We have new council members. So that is where our check-in is at that time.
All right.
And would those funds be guaranteed if let's say we had excess funds there? Is there a process to be able to use those funds on different projects, or is that just money that we would get?
No, we would have to submit another application to Metro on how we will use those funds.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. That helps to clarify the situation because we talked about several projects, but focused on just these two major ones at the nature park. We're seeing a development of a lot of proposed projects up there. A park that was designed to be very natural has been getting development, but it's development that kind of still works into the design of the park itself. And even a built structure like a restroom, when you're at the nature park, sometimes nature calls. And so I think it's important to have that there. And so would anyone like to make a motion regarding, and just for the people that are in the audience, we have a 52-page intergovernmental agreement, including drawings and maps and renderings of the park itself and the locations of things. And we haven't even gotten to the stage where we engineer the project itself to show even more detail about how it will be done. So sometimes government involves a lot of paperwork and a lot of detail, but for the amount of money that's involved and free money coming to us through the taxpayer of a bond that was around several years ago, it's good for the city. So let's see if we can get a motion on this one.
May I ask, the design we're looking at, is that the final design or is that a
It's a preliminary design cost estimate, and we do have a project manager that will be vetting this through the Parks Board, so they will have a say in the different types of renditions that they will be looking at. And I do want to say, Mayor, I think you just named the restrooms at the nature park as nature calls, so.
Brilliant.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Gladstone and Metro for the 2019 Parks and Nature Bond Measure Local Share Program projects, which includes a restroom and picnic shelter at the Gladstone Nature Park.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Counselor Garlington, seconded by Counselor Roberts. Any further discussion?
I just have one more thing. One
Okay,
little-
Counselor Garlington.
I love it when things in Gladstone come around. And I always feel like the more that we bring, the more that we put into our city, that brings more people into our city, applies to every business, neighborhood, whatever it can to bring our city around and make it better for people to come and visit. So thank you everyone for this.
I always notice when I see comments on social media from citizens, and somebody will mention Gladstone Nature Park and people say, where's that? Tell me about it. So not everybody knows. So getting the word out to our immediate community and our surrounding community is important. And anything that we do that brings it into the focus of the public because we're making changes or additions will help exactly what you're saying to happen. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Blau,
Yes.
Counselor Labonte,
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. So Gladstone has approved our side of the intergovernmental agreement. And I don't know where Metro is on this, but when both sides have signed it, we're in business. All right, we move next to, we have some additional appointments to make for boards, commissions, and committees. So once again, Administrator Betts.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to start with the appointment to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board. We have one vacant term, and that will expire 12/31/2028. In your packet, you have two applications. One is Stephanie Carlson, and the other is Robert Moore. I also wanted to remind you that Stephanie Carlson marked Planning Commission and Park and Recreation Advisory Board. She is currently on the Planning Commission, so just being considered for the Park and Recreation Board tonight. Our city recorder has the spreadsheet up, and she will ask each of you to make your selection.
Okay, are people ready to make a selection on this? Any questions or comments?
So are we just a straight vote or are we any conversation amongst?
We can have conversation if you'd like. The process for doing the vote will be, since there's just one at one position, you will just name either of the applicants, whichever one you prefer, or if you prefer neither, you can say neither. Would you like to share some comments?
Well, just that, glad to see folks wanting to be part of these boards, which is great. So I look forward to this. I know that we've got one member who is, on the Planning Commission also, which is great. So I just, that's all I have.
And let me ask, I don't know these applicants personally, and I've seen Planning Commissioner Carlson online, but wouldn't necessarily know her in person. Are any of them present tonight? Okay, just wanted to be sure. Okay. Let's just go down the line, Tammy, then with a roll call vote. So just name your preference, or if it's none, say none.
Counselor Garlington,
Moore.
Counselor Roberts,
Robert Moore.
Counselor Labonte,
More.
Counselor Blaug,
More.
Counselor Mitchell,
More.
Counselor Huckabee,
More.
Mayor Milch.
Robert Moore. So Robert Moore is elected to the Park and Recreation Board. For people who can't see his application, I just want to let you know, his occupation is an outdoor Waldorf kindergarten teacher. He says he has spent the better part of his working career leading and teaching kids in an outdoor setting, especially in city and state parks. I know parks, what makes them great and what they need. Gladstone has some great parks, and I like to help keep it that way. So he now has that opportunity. So thank you, Mr. Moore, for volunteering, and council for approving that. And we are glad that Ms. Carlson is continuing on the Planning Commission and making a good involvement there. Okay, and we have one more.
Traffic Safety Advisory Board, there is one vacant term and you have one application, Kenneth Engstrom. And I believe Mr. Engstrom actually attended the last Traffic Safety Board to say, how can I apply to be on this board? So you have his application in your packet. This term also expires 12/31/2028.
All right, we can do this a little different way. Would anyone like to make a motion to appoint Kenneth Engstrom to the Traffic Safety Advisory Board?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved by our liaison to that board, Councilor Levante, and seconded by Councilor Roberts. So let's just call the roll then.
Counselor Blaug,
Yes.
Counselor Levante,
Yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Mitchell,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes. So Kenneth Engstrom is appointed. His occupation is he's a retired civil engineer, and indicated, I wish to become more involved in the Gladstone community, make use of my civil engineering experience, and have something useful to do. And now he does. So,
Mayor?
Yes.
May I please ask for a recess?
yes, thank you for alerting me to that. And we'll take a recess now, and then we'll come back and finish our last agenda item in the remainder of our meeting.
You are good to go.
All right, we're back. We're re-adjourned as Gladstone City Council after a little break. We have one more item on our main agenda, and that is a continuation of a discussion we had regarding the implementation of a proclamation process. At our last meeting, we turned this back over to staff, our city attorney and our city administrator. We thought we'd be waiting until a work session to work on this, but they worked a little quicker than we thought. We appreciate that. And so, Ms. Betts, I'll let you introduce this to us.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So back by popular demand, we're going to continue our discussion of the proclamation process. In your packet, what I tried to do is to draft up some guidelines, and that's based off of research that we have found that other cities have used. And in your packet, it states the ones that we referred to, including the state of Oregon's process. There are comments in red under the guidelines, and I believe the form has a couple comments as well to kind of guide some conversation. This is based off some suggestions that the city attorney also provided me. And so it is intended to try to further the conversations to understand if the city does want to pursue doing proclamations. So with that, Mayor, I can suggest that we either go through these red lined item by item, or you can start the conversation first of all to decide if this is something that we formally want to move forward. It's your discretion.
All right. I will say it's a whole lot easier to have this discussion with a draft guideline proposal in front of us, because it makes it easy to, if there are areas of disagreement, to see how we could develop a policy that will incorporate what most of us want to see on this. So I think your suggestion is just kind of moving through the red lines and whatever else and the black print as well, but just those areas where you pointed out, we might have some options of how we consider it. So the first one, proclamations are issued by the mayor, and in parenthesis in red, it says, or council. I've looked at some of the proclamations made by other cities, and sometimes it just says, I, Mayor so-and-so, proclaim. And then other times they will say, and the city council approves, or the city council of the city of so-and-so proclaims as well. So I've seen both ways, and we wouldn't have to be consistent all the time. But it's good to know how we want to have this. So are there preferences if we were to do this and adopt a policy for proclamations? What is your feeling about whether it should be proclaimed by the mayor or proclaimed by the council? And think about all the various pitfalls associated with a council decision in considering that. The need for discussion or agreement or a vote, perhaps. So comments from council members. Councilor
May I ask a
Huckabee.
quick question?
Yes.
I know that we have somebody here to speak on this matter, not for public comment, but specifically for this.
Yes.
So I just wanted to ask, do we want to do that before we have a discussion, after we want to have a discussion? How do you feel about that?
All right. I know there is, you have some comments prepared. Would you like to hear us discuss a little first and edit your comments later, or would you prefer to present to us now?
Sure, I'd love to hear the comments first. And then
Okay.
follow up on that.
All right, good. Very good. We've seen the letter submitted by Mrs. Cheney, and we can look at that let that guide us. But we will still allow her to give her testimony and to include that in our decision-making process. But thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so I'll go back to the question of who issues a proclamation. What have you seen? What are you happy with? What are you concerned about?
May I ask?
Yes.
The letter that was referred to, should that be in our packet, or is that?
No, that was an email that came to us.
that email
Yeah,
specific?
yes.
Okay, so that's not for the public record.
I think we can make it part of the public record later because she will be testifying and submitted it for that purpose.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes. I will say that I am willing to make proclamations as a mayor and would do so giving my best consideration of the feelings of the rest of the council of what's appropriate to do and not do. And I am also willing to, if the council feels something would be stronger, to have it come as a council proclamation. So I think we could have the language say mayor or council, and maybe or council if desired, or something like that in that paragraph. I don't think there's a need to be consistently one or the other. So I'll just put that out there. Councilor Mitchell?
So my question sort of ties into number 3 and this part. So the mayor receives the proclamations through email, is my understanding, if we just decide this. Are we going to be able to also view the proclamations before they go into our packet? So we could say if we want to be as a council or.
Okay, and that's where it comes up. And Chad, you can weigh in on this. This where it becomes a matter of open meetings law. And so it's not as though we can send them out and have people comment on them and share comments back without that being a matter of, open records to the community. So Chad, what are your thoughts on this? Give us your insight into a process for editing and refining things that doesn't open us too much to exposure to the community of, nobody wants to see the sausage being made.
Yeah, that's difficult, as you know, because you are subject to the public meeting laws, and to the extent that more than one person is making a recommendation to the council, that subset of the council would also be subject to the public meeting law. So you can't just say we'll delegate this to 2 or 3 people, because then they become a committee and they have to abide by the public meeting laws as well. So in essence, typically what cities do is they just, defer this obligation to the city staff or one elected official, usually the mayor, to approve a proclamation and edit a proclamation and move forward. If you wanted to have a situation where the council could elect to sign on and not actually make edits or substantial edits to the proclamation, what you could do is just have it as part of the agenda packet And then, prior to the proclamation being read, or sort of identified or acknowledged by the mayor, the council could make a motion if they wanted the council as a body to join in that proclamation. And so it wouldn't be a process where the council would necessarily be editing and having the sausage made, as you said, Mayor, but rather just, the mayor's going to issue this proclamation. It's in the agenda packet. The council desires to sort of attach its name to it as well. It would have the opportunity to do so before the mayor reads it or declares the proclamation on behalf of the city.
Okay, we do not have a long history of doing proclamations per se, but what we've done that's analogous to that in the past has been resolutions that were adopted by the council. 4 years ago now, the city council adopted a resolution regarding the declaration of Juneteenth as a city holiday, but it also amounted to basically a proclamation about that whole holiday and its impact on the life in the community. So there is precedent for having the council vote on something of that nature. It was, in fact, approved unanimously by a city council who some thought might have had more trouble with that. But I think you've given us, Chad, a good option. That council approval might be a special thing that we would do, and again, leave it up to staff or the mayor or whoever is designated as this person to do this to know those times when it would be strengthened or of other value to have a council approval. I see Councilor Blaug nodding her head, so I guess I'm making sense to her. But just think about that, and let's look at some of the other things. It's been suggested that, and again, we're assuming that these proclamations are not generated by us as much as maybe coming from a group in the community, because they were seeing this process, this whole discussion started as, is this a way to help us meet our community engagement goals? And I noticed some of the other cities that do proclamations do them at the very beginning of the meeting, the same time that we have sworn in new police officers, welcome new staff, honored staff who have performed capably. It's kind of that announcements and recognitions time of a meeting. And this is what other cities do. And in order to do that, very often they hear in advance from people who want this. We need some lead time to get it on an agenda and to help people plan to attend. So 30-day notice is what's in this proposed guidelines. Some cities say 5 weeks or 60 days. We usually have like a 1 week notice, at least on agenda. So it's not too hard to get it on the agenda. But as far as preparing it and refining it and getting it in a form to use, I think 30 days would be fine. Does anybody else have thoughts on that?
I'm supportive of 30 days.
Okay. And yes.
May I ask, from the staff perspective, would 30 days be adequate to kind of thoroughly vet?
If we're following the guidelines in this process where somebody submits it ready to go, yes. 30 days should be sufficient.
All right.
And may I ask, perhaps in a situation where that isn't the case, then what happens then we would just be 60 days or just be the process?
Yeah, I think staff does not recommend developing a proclamation. I think the request that comes in needs to be a template from the organization. Mm-hmm. If there is anything controversial or hesitant that we would want the city attorney to review, we would need that time to do that. And I think 30 days is fine. Okay. But I would not suggest that just because somebody says we want a proclamation for Arbor Day, that staff should have to create that proclamation. It should come as a template to us ready to go.
So that proposes a question. So we have a proclamation that somebody feels like there's something written in it that is controversial. And now we're going to use legal time and costs rather than just turn it back to the applicant and say, under Gladstone guidelines, this isn't acceptable.
Well,
Where does that come in?
I think item 3 on here that gets to that issue. the mayor reserves the right to approve or decline the production of a proclamation and to edit any drafted material for final wording. So I don't think very many organizations would say take it or leave it, but we would make it clear in any form that we have for submitting something that we would maybe just edit it for brevity, use wording that we feel is consistent with the way we describe things in our city. And as far as content that's too controversial, as you put it, that's where it becomes to the judgment of the mayor or the person delegated to do it, to kind of help make those decisions.
So my question
Yeah.
is, are we going to use legal time and money for proclamations?
You mean our legal staff?
If-
Yeah, I would hope that we could resolve any issue without involving getting a legal opinion. If it's something that we think requires getting a legal opinion, that might be one where we would just say, let's not step into this.
Okay, so my question is, do we put that in writing?
Well,
don't put
it
it in
is in
writing,
writing.
it-
We reserve the right, as drafted here, to reserve the right to approve or decline the production of a proclamation and to edit any drafted material for final wording. So I received a request from a local organization. I said, send me some sample wording. She gave me a couple of options, and I actually drafted and I submitted for you tonight. It's the one for April 2025. I drafted a proclamation based on that wording. And I think, and I had a couple of options for the way it was done, for how it could be done, but that was a process that worked for me. Going off, samples of what has been done by other cities enabled me to come up with something that kind of fit the size and the time frame of what I thought was appropriate. I'm not asking you to approve or disapprove of that tonight. I'm just saying this is the product of that kind of a process.
Right.
Chad Jacobs, I see you have your hand up. You want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, just to the extent it's helpful and not advocating for or against this, obviously it's your call. But I can tell you we have several other clients who do proclamations on a regular basis. And I think in my 25 years, I've maybe been consulted about one proclamation. So it doesn't happen very often. And I would just urge you to, if you're going to move forward with this, not to preclude that, because there could be a situation where something arises where you may want to consult with legal counsel. But in my experience, it almost never happens. So, I wouldn't spend a lot of time debating this particular issue. Certainly you can do so if you want, but it's just not in my experience, it's just not something that arises very often. So I wouldn't want to mislead you all into thinking that this is a major issue where it's really just not.
Thank you for that clarity.
All right. And I think the other legal issue that we brought up in earlier discussions about this was, again, we are not providing a forum for these organizations to exercise their right to free speech on our time. They can submit something to us, and if we choose to express, either as a councilor or I as a mayor, it's I that am speaking, not the organization. And if I decline it, I'm not denying them any right to speak. It's just a process we have.
That's absolutely correct, Mayor. And that's why some of the red language under number 3, I think, is really important and valuable to include in a statement like this if you're going to move forward, just because that's making very clear to the public that this is, in fact, government speech as opposed to providing some sort of public forum for people to engage in their own speech activities.
Okay, thank you for underscoring that distinction.
And for my clarification, Chad, government speech, I think you described before as the view of the city or the view of the council. Could you just define government speech for us?
Yeah, it's when the government's speaking on its own behalf as opposed to providing a venue for other people to engage in their own speech activities. So in this particular situation, depending on what you wanted to do, it would be a delegation to the mayor to speak on behalf of the city. It would be a delegation for the council to speak on behalf of the city. You all will make that decision if you want to move forward with this, about who gets to approve the proclamation, but you have the right as the council to delegate that authority to the mayor to say, yes, I'm going to approve this, or I'm going to edit this in this way, and this is what the city's going to say about this particular topic.
I appreciate your clarification. Thank you.
Councilor Mitchell.
My question is if we decide the mayor reserves the right to approve or disapprove. My question more of what I was going for earlier, what happens to the disapproved ones? Could we still view them so we know what is important to our community members? Like what happens to those documents?
I think that's a very good question because again, if we see this as a process for engaging the community and 1 month we get 5 or 6 things, and actually for April, I think there's at least 4 or 5 I could do in the month of April based on things I've received already. It does come down to just kind of a judgment call. We can do maybe not a full proclamation, but say, by the way, April is also such and such month, which just reflects that that organization has chosen it that without us doing the full thing. But I would be happy to share any requests that I receive with the rest of the council. And if I were the one making the decision, to share my reasons for choosing maybe only 1 or 2 or whatever seems to work. But I appreciate that comment. That's something that had not occurred to me before. If we are, and we don't want to be in a situation where people say, boy, I really thought this council was going to go for this and now they didn't. And maybe they're not as concerned about community engagement as they say they are. So I think you're getting to that issue. Thank you.
And
Councilor Huckabee.
Mayor,
yes.
sorry,
Go ahead.
Councilor Huckabee.
Thank you. Say we get to, like, for instance, you said April, there's 4 or 5 that you've received already or could receive. And we're only allowing 2 or whatever number we say we're only allowing this amount, would we then instead put the remainder, instead of declining them, put them on the consent agenda so they are in the document, but not necessarily read it out loud, just by order of how it was submitted?
That would be another option if it was prepared, if it met my standards, if it doesn't involve too much of my time to do it, assuming it's me, that would be another way to do it. So that it gets included in a packet, but maybe didn't have the same formal recognition.
Right. Only in excess of what we're allotting.
And again, a consent agenda item is something we are basically voting up or down as a council. And I don't want to be in a situation where somebody says, I want to pull this proclamation out, and then we get into big public discussion about it.
I completely agree with that.
Okay. All right. So just, yeah, as these scenarios occur to us, we need to think about the pros and cons of all that. Administrator Betts, you had some input for us.
I was just going to say the reason why I put a limit of 2 proclamations is because some cities said they started spending 45 minutes to an hour reading proclamations. And so it's typically 2 proclamations and the selection is made in the order the requests are received. So you're not really unapproving it. It just depends on when they've submitted it for that time period.
Okay. That's helpful. Now, there's a lot of red language on number 3. Have you had a chance to look, and does anything in there appeal to you as far as changing?
So my understanding of number 3 is that the second paragraph is language that we want to include that says, in issuing proclamations, the city is using its own voice to honor, celebrate, or create awareness of an event. To the remainder of that was my understanding that you wanted to include.
Yeah, I think that fit in with the conversation we had with Chad. Do you agree to clarify that it's the city speaking its own voice? That's that government voice that Councilor Roberts asked about. And it underscores that there's no right to a proclamation that we may edit any materials.
And may I just ask on the edit? I could imagine that could end up being a bit of an uncomfortable situation for mayor, for staff, or from whoever, where if we were to edit a proclamation that was sent to us, do we bounce that back to the group or organization before we say the proclamation, or could we end up in a situation where maybe we edit it in a way that they disagree, and that could, I don't know if there's any legal implications for that or anything, but do we bounce back the edit for their approval?
I think in some cases that may be the way that whoever is preparing it would proceed. Just to say, we don't have room for all this. We want to shorten it. We're going to leave out these, but we hope that we still get the essentials in this. And they may give us some feedback that helps us in that process.
And will that be part of our policy here, or just kind of in-house?
Well, I think if we say we have the right to edit, we just follow our instinct as how best to do that. Again, we're seeing this as a community engagement process. Ideally, these are coming from people in our community. So we want to, the easiest way to change it from what they give us is to involve them in doing that, unless they give us total permission to just do what we want. In the case of the one that I did for the month of April, I was given some options and was able to make the choices myself and didn't feel I needed to go back and ask for permission for that.
May I ask staff, does that seem feasible?
In regards to the process, if we edit the
Yeah.
proclamation, typically, yeah, I would say that if we did edit it, we would send it back to the requester and say, hey, for brevity, we took this out. I'm guessing that there wouldn't be an issue with that. So I don't have any concerns about that.
All right, item 4 talks about proclamations coming from a local resident, including requests from national, international, or out-of-state organizations. And I can see why, if it came from an organization that didn't have a local representative, we might not want to automatically, consider it. But you also say it could be a request from an other optional language includes a request from an Oregon resident, preferably from the same county as the local jurisdiction. And we also have, sometimes we allow people who do business in our community or provide services in our community, even though the individuals may not reside here, to have some say in what we do in Gladstone. So I see Councilor Huckabee nodding her head there. What are your thoughts on
I
that?
think that I have a great example of that. There's several nonprofits that work around us and also benefit Gladstone. And if they were wanting to do a proclamation, I would not want to exclude them because they do not reside within our city, but they provide services and benefit our city.
Okay, so would you like to add some language that sort of references organizations or business, or well, it's not businesses because we're generally not doing it, but organizations that serve the community of Gladstone, something to that effect? Does that seem reasonable, Councilor Garlington?
I completely disagree.
Oh.
I personally believe that if a person's going to bring a proclamation forward, they need to live in the city. So.
You don't
Okay,
think people that are benefiting, like say our houseless services, they shouldn't be able to make a proclamation here because they don't live in a house here, even though they're helping our houseless population?
Correct.
I disagree.
yeah, I think I disagree too. The request I got from the people at the Children's Center, which is an agency located in Oregon City, but serves our community and works in cooperation with law enforcement and the judicial system and the school system. I don't think that they have to find somebody on their board or their staff who actually lives in Gladstone for that to be relevant to Gladstone. So I would be willing to, to have that broader scope of eligibility. Other thoughts?
I would agree with Councilor Huckabee that local residents, as well as those who do business in the city of Gladstone, or to benefit the city, and then would go on to further state that I agree with the red language towards the end, that officials from within the city shouldn't be the ones submitting proclamations. Same with city staff.
Okay, we have a voice already.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think it shouldn't be those representing the city in some capacity for a board, committee, commission, whatever it is they serve on, as long as it was with the city council, as well as there shouldn't be any city staff that would submit a proclamation.
Okay. All right. You're taking notes
I'd
on
like
this,
the
Administrator
staff
Betts?
got it.
Me go, yeah.
All right. This is the one that has the most kind of edits to what we want, but I just want to make sure you're capturing this because you and Chad will probably be coming up with something final for us.
Yeah, so what I have right now under number 4 is each proclamation request must come from a local resident or an organization that serves Gladstone, period. This includes requests from national, international, or out-of-state organizations. And then I'm going to say no subordinate board, commission, or committee of the city, and no individual counselor or other official of the city may issue a proclamation without prior approval and consent of the council, or just
I would
leave it?
strike that last section.
Okay,
And then I would like language added about staff. If there's a council consensus on that. But I think that's kind of policy with everything else, consistent with the way the city operates.
I'm just going to say, suppose a member of the city staff is on the board of an organization that deals with, I don't know, mental health issues in the community. And they're the one who lives in Gladstone too. And so they say, I want to submit this. They're not submitting it as a staff member. They're submitting it as a representative of something they do outside of their work. Would you be comfortable with that? Or do you think you still want a hard and fast limitation?
Yep, hard and fast on that.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Would that, so you're saying that if we have a citizen here, even though they might work with the city, they want to proclaim, send in a proclamation that you disagree with them, with their ability to do that?
As long as they work for the city, they should.
Even as an individual member, just of society outside of.
Yep. Their involvement or their commitment to their work for the city prohibits them.
I'll just give a couple examples of where an employee or staff could recommend one. Public Works Week is a national thing. Law Enforcement Memorial Week is another one. So we may say, hey, this is coming up. Did you want to put this in a proclamation? But I will do what the majority of the council decides. If we want to add language that says including staff, we can add that.
All right. Thank you for that input. Chad, you also have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna seek one point of clarification because the language that's in the packet in the red is about the subordinate bodies and individuals issuing a proclamation, not requesting a proclamation. And so I just want to be clear, do you want this language to apply to both of those things, issuing and requesting, or just issuing? And so I just want to make that, ask for that clarification, because when we go back and redraft this language, I want to make sure we're accurately reflecting what the council as a body decides it wants to do.
All right. Yes. As it's written now, it says issue. But with the topic of discussion, it kind of been who can request. I'm agreeing with, I found the examples that Administrator Betts gave to be helpful, because I think we can perhaps do proclamations that do involve things directly related to staff. And so I would disagree with Councilor Roberts. I wouldn't want to make that a hard and fast exclusion.
I concur.
You concur?
I do too.
Okay. So, and you said you didn't. So I think we have a majority maybe on a different position than you on that particular issue. Now that's issuing, and again, how do we want that language to read? Issue or request?
Request is what I would recommend.
Okay.
And striking issue.
Okay. Yeah, because it is talking about requests.
Or should we leave both? Because we don't necessarily want other boards and committees just issuing proclamations.
I think number 4 is about requesting. So I'm fine just putting request in there, but that's something that city attorney and I can discuss the best way to capture that.
We also don't want to, limit the freedom of speech of people who volunteer for the city. But a proclamation, we're defining it as something that is issued by the mayor and/or city council. So it would not fit our definition of a proclamation, but certainly they can.
Wouldn't the previous guidelines prevent that from happening? Because if it's say one of our boards or commissions, they can't just issue one because you and city staff need to be involved in that. And that's where that would be caught, for lack of a better word.
If we feel there's enough clarity, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure that's, clear enough for Chad, I suppose, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I don't think the Parks Board is going to issue a proclamation or the audit committee or, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I guess.
For an issue of clarity, Administrator Betts, would you be willing to read off 4 again since it's been striked through and edited?
Oh, I'd be happy to. Ready? Each proclamation request must come from a local resident or an organization that serves Gladstone. This includes requests from national, international, or out-of-state organizations. No subordinate board, commission, or committee of the city, and no individual counselor or other official of the city may request a proclamation.
May I ask, what exactly do we mean by serves the city? When we say serves the city, what are we saying exactly?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to get bogged down.
Serves.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if there's like
No,
a
it's a good
national,
question.
then it turns to say national groups, and that's.
We have like the YMCA.
But
Yeah.
I don't, just the terminology serves the city. I'm not sure what are we, how, I could imagine where there might be a perfectly acceptable proclamation out there. But I mean, how theoretical would we get with the word serves, I guess?
Or benefit organizations that benefit the residents of Gladstone. We can, if we knew the intent of that, which I think we do, we can define that clearer.
Okay, so you'll come up some words that give it a little more expanded enough that I think it's encompassing and still provides some limitation. But serves or benefits might be a little more clarification. I mean, trying to think, our garbage company serves the citizens of Gladstone, but we don't proclaim that. But then we get to that on the next page.
I proclaim them very important people.
Yes. Tonight I put the trash cans out with my help from my grandchildren. So yes, it is important. Let's move to the next page. 5 is, yeah. And it didn't have any red, so let's just take a look at it and make sure we're okay with this. A proclamation document is the legal record of the declaration. Proclamations do not require public reading to be in effect, and the city reserves the right to determine whether a proclamation will be read in open session. This helps us with the situation, Councilor Huckabee, you described earlier. We could prepare one that we don't read, but we want to include it for informational purposes. But I think the reading them in public is, for some people, is part of the proclamation, the out loud part, and we have that.
I agree. I would highly encourage that if that's something we're going to do, that we invite that person or organization to come here and read it themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
So we can honor it.
I have a question.
Yes.
On that number 5, if nobody shows up, do we need to read it out loud? Sorry, thought it was on, I turned it off.
Yes, I think we would read it out loud whether we had representative of the organization there or not. Often, if we're declaring that something is, well, like, for example, I've also drafted some or have some language here for you for a proclamation of Juneteenth. And it might be, and the one for Arbor Day. I think our Arbor Day people would show up, but we could read it, proclaim Arbor Day without requiring that somebody interested in trees be there. So I don't think they need to show up in order for us to do it. It's something that makes it better for them. And if, and again, at the other cities that do things at the beginning, sometimes they say, let's do a photo op. And they pause and stand next to the council and get that done at the beginning of the meeting. The same way we do when we swear people in, new officers, we let the family be involved. And I see it as kind of fitting that same mold.
Okay, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Would the council consider if a proclamation is preceded by a state or federal proclamation, meaning the state or the federal government has already done it and there's a date, that we proclaim that proclamation in our city in that month?
No, I'm not supportive of that.
So
we're speaking
just
from
gonna
our
do it
city.
whenever they come through,
Well,
rather than honor the month that the federal government and the state has already given it. So let's
Do
take.
you mean like
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth in December? Is
I
that what you
think-
mean?
No, I meant like do Juneteenth in June.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't
Okay.
think somebody would come to us and ask for it to be done in December.
Yeah, I think we would make it
I was
consistent
just
with.
asking, never mind.
No, I think you're right. We want it to be consistent with the will of the organization. If it's a designation of a day or a month, it should match what's typically done in other places and what's recognized.
May I ask, did I hear, so the,
It's all right, never mind.
we might have, so the group comes in and they might have the opportunity to do the proclamation themselves. Did I hear that earlier?
No, the proclamation would be read
Yep.
from the dais, but the group could be here
I see.
if we had a system for having a printed version of it.
Mhm.
We could hand them a copy and they could take pictures, and then they could post in their organization's newsletter. Last month, our organization, the city of Gladstone, the mayor of the city of Gladstone read a proclamation declaring this National Popcorn Month for us, the Popcorn Foundation of the world. And so, they could use it for publicity purposes or, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm talking, but they wouldn't read it. No.
So they will receive an actual placard too, or?
I'm not talking placard. It might be printed on a sheet of paper with a gold
Okay.
sticker on it.
there you are.
Maybe
So
a city letterhead.
Thinking price wise.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm not thinking we're going to go to other cities. You can go on their webpage and look up proclamations, and they will list by date every proclamation that they've done. And when you look at it, it looks very much like what I handed you as a sample. And except I didn't have logos to add on there. Councilor Roberts.
While we're still on 5 here, can I ask Chad what in effect means in this context? If you could kind of define that for us. Requires a public reading to be in effect.
Yeah, so basically you'll see in other cities on their agendas that there may be 3 or 4 resolution or proclamations on a particular agenda, but the city only reads one of them. And so basically it's saying that, the fact that we didn't read it doesn't mean that it's not adopted, it's not in effect, that it's not a proclamation of the city. It's just that we were reserving the right to pick and choose which ones we're going to read. So as City Administrator Betts was saying, that you don't spend 45 minutes just reading proclamations. You're just sort of picking and choosing which one you want to read, and the rest will be on the agenda. They're publicly stated, and that means that they're in effect, on behalf of the city. The city's made that proclamation, basically.
So publishing it in the packet has the same, it makes it that we have recognized it, and they can say the city of Gladstone proclaimed
The
this.
city has engaged in that speech by putting it in the agenda packet, and that means that it was formally issued by the city, even though it was not read aloud at the council meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Chad.
And just to further expand on that, I meet regularly with the mayor to prepare the agenda. And an example would be, he could say, okay, I've got these 2 proclamations, and I could say, okay, we've got a public hearing. Got 3 public hearings. Here's the length that I think the meeting will be. And we could decide, whether or not they should all be read or which one should be just placed in the packet. So there are some logistics that go into how we craft our agendas for meetings as well.
And we'd be okay with, I'd imagine if like 3 groups have a proclamation that month and we maybe not arbitrarily, maybe pick just one, I'd imagine that would be kind of disheartening for the other groups. Are we prepared to make those decisions like properly?
I am. Yeah. I think, again, we've reserved that right. And it really has to do more with the logistical concerns very often.
They might not see it that way, though.
Well,
they may see it as something, and that kind of goes to some of the issues that some folks are concerned about with, not afraid, concerned about with the proclamations, the idea of picking and choosing. And I know I'd be pretty bummed out if I put all the effort into putting a proclamation and that just kind of got, pushed under. So, another group, which is totally valid. And, I see that being counter to the impact that we're trying to have.
I agree with you. I think we ought to make the effort to give all of them the attention that they're due. And there may be circumstances when we can't, and I hope people would be understanding. But I think we can set up a system which will try to, a process which will try to address that concern.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Wouldn't the in order received make it not arbitrary?
Well, that's true too. Yeah, if we set that forward, we can say we received 3 this month, but the other people got theirs in earlier, or they gave us language ahead of time that was suitable, and that made it easier to do that one first.
Right,
But
so then we're not
we'll definitely
picking and
put
choosing.
yours in the agenda or
Yeah,
packet or
yeah.
something if we choose.
Yeah.
Councilor Mitchell?
I don't mean to set us back, but I did have a follow-up question because I am seeking a point of clarity
Okay.
on 4. Are we saying that, let's say the Parks Board, let's say an individual from the Parks Board who happens to serve on the Parks Board can't come in and say, this is Arbor Day this month? Is this what we're saying? Or
No, we're saying no subordinate board, commission, or committee of the city, and no individual council or other official. I think we ought to be able to make a distinction between whether somebody's acting in their official capacity, serving as a volunteer in the city. We tend to attract people who volunteer in a lot of ways. So that person may have something that the cause that they're involved with and want to speak on behalf of it. So I think we need to be able to make that distinction between what someone is doing because they are involved in an organization and what they're doing because they are involved in a commission. Do we need to legally define that difference, Chad, would you say? Are we limiting ourselves too much here? If somebody volunteers at Love One and they happen to also serve on an advisory committee, can they not do a proclamation about the work of Love One in our community?
Request.
A request a proclamation. How would we get around
issue,
that?
we're going back to that one too.
Yeah.
No, so certainly this is a policy call for you all to make. There are obviously free speech implications here when someone's not acting in an official capacity. I don't have any real concerns with you saying in your official capacity, you can't be doing this, but to the extent that someone is doing something, volunteering on the board of a nonprofit and wants to make that request on behalf of the nonprofit in their personal capacity, I would suggest that you don't limit them in that way.
All right, very good. We'll have to work on that language too to make sure that's clear. Councilor Labonte?
Sure. So we are saying though that if a board, let's say traffic safety, crazy idea, wanted to do a proclamation for seatbelt safety month, or you name the traffic safety theme, that board wouldn't be able to put in that request? Is that?
Well, see, now you brought another good example of something similar to what Administrator Betts said about recognition of certain staff or certain organizations. So I wouldn't want that limitation either, because I think they could say, this is important to us, this is a cause, and we'd like to present the council to consider it. So I think we ought to be able to allow a request. So I'm less wanting to be less strict on this than I think, because I think that's a good example. And when you develop a policy, you kind of want to cover all the bases first, even if it does take 4 meetings to do it. Councilor Roberts? You had your light on. I didn't know if you had. Oh, that's okay. Very good. All right. Let's move over to page 15-3.
So Mayor,
Yes.
Are we striking that last sentence in number 4 then? Are we now saying it's okay for boards or committees?
The original language was that they could not issue a proclamation, and I think it's important that they don't issue independently. But as far as requesting, I think that's too tight a restriction. So, if they are a resident, if they are involved in an organization that meets the other criteria, being a part of the staff of the city or being on a city commission shouldn't preclude somebody from playing that role. Maybe the only person who volunteers to that organization who actually lives in the city is someone who also volunteers in another capacity within the city. So
we're striking that sentence.
Yeah, I think so. All right, personal proclamations for individuals or businesses will not be accepted. Okay, and I think we understand why there. We're not providing free advertising for people. We sometimes, I did mention one time that I was invited to go to Somerset when a woman there was celebrating her 100th birthday, and I'm sure there are other cities and places that celebrate milestone events in people's lives. But again, this is something where maybe we get overloaded if we do too many. So, but again, honoring employees. Proclamations will not honor employees or organizations, commercial venture, or opposing a candidate. Well, yes, we're not going to support or oppose candidates for political office in a proclamation for sure. We have another method to honor employees. Do we want to proclaim Chief Schmerber Day or hand Chief Schmerber the Police Chief of the Year award?
You can have the pineapple award instead.
Yeah, we got that pineapple award. We're gonna get him ready for that.
So we could say personal proclamations for individuals or businesses will not be accepted, nor will we support or oppose a candidate for public office.
I think the language too about organizations, commercial ventures, I think there's value in that too. I'd kind of like to see that whole section move forward.
You want
final
the whole section of red?
Yeah, contents of proclamation 1. I want to see that whole thing move forward.
Okay.
All right. And honoring an organization is different from honoring or proclaiming something about the work that an organization does. So again, I talked about the Children's Center that works to prevent child abuse. We can celebrate Child Abuse Awareness Month without necessarily naming the organization that asked us to do it and honoring that organization.
And if I may ask staff, that won't affect the pineapple award, will it?
The pineapple award is a city administrator award, so we're good.
All right. And number 2 sort of underscores what we said about businesses, not advertising or commercial promotion. Here's some language. Proclamation should reflect inclusiveness, not exclusiveness, and recognize that the strength of our democracy is our diversity. It must not take sides in matters of political, ideological, or religious controversy or individual convictions. We live in a very divided society where almost every issue divides people in some way. And so if you, and this was an issue for a previous counselor, how do we proclaim something that, how do you proclaim Juneteenth if the racist in the community doesn't support it? Are we going to get in trouble by limiting ourselves in terms of this kind of wording? I know for a lot of us, this is kind of the spirit that we wanted in which we want to make these proclamations. In fact, that was part of the reason for doing it, was to be more inclusive of people and awareness of communities that maybe don't get recognition very often. But what constitutes taking sides? Is there a different way that we would word this? Some of you who have worked in this area and in groups that are dedicated to helping that sense of belonging, that equity among people in the community, is there a better way to word this than what we have here?
I will say that every city had this exact language, which tells me a city attorney developed it. So, I don't expect that we are going to get a lot of controversial proclamations, but typically it would be something that with my discretion, if I felt like I needed to have Chad review it, I would do it at that point. I think the black language as is fine, but Chad may want to weigh in to see if we want to add anything or about the legally binding piece of that.
All right, Chad, do you have that in front of you where you see the red?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think to answer your question about the second sentence that's in black, I think as you've talked about throughout the course of this discussion, not just tonight, but on previous nights, about sort of, the goal is to bring the community together and not further divide the community. That's what that language is trying to get at. It's trying to preclude those situations where you are getting submissions that are really controversial in nature, that the mayor or whomever is then having to make the difficult call of saying, do I decline this one or do I push it forward? And it's really trying to keep it more even keeled type of request. So you're not putting the city in a position to say no to people on these more controversial issues. Now, certainly we can edit that language and play around with that language if you want, but I think City Administrator Betts is correct. This is language that I've seen consistently throughout the state in these types of policies. And I think that's exactly why. It's just to sort of, tell people from the get-go, the city's not going to even accept those kinds of applications for a proclamation. And then the red language is really about some of just the exact same discussion we had previously about government speech. And, whether you want to have that here or up above as you've had it, as long as it's in there somewhere, I think we're covered. So I don't know that you need to add it here if we've added it above, but it's just really important that, as you're going through this process and as you're talking to people in the community, making clear that this is not an opportunity for them to celebrate themselves. This is an opportunity for them to request that the city celebrate them. And, we're going to decide whether or not we want to do that or not on our own.
All right, thank you. I think that's an important distinction, and I'm glad we'll try to find a way to work it in either there or up above, because it's come up a couple times. And we don't want to be accused of denying people the opportunity to speak. We make other opportunities for that in our meetings, and even though we're not required to. So we don't want to diminish the importance of that. Proclamations must have citywide significance and demonstrate relevancy to the city and its community. I think that's reflected in some of what we already kind of looked at and wanted to do. It needs to have local formal requirements, provide a specific date. Now, usually we would only do a proclamation on the date of a meeting. So June 19th will always fall after our first city council meeting in the month of June. But if we want to declare a month, do you declare it the month before or do you declare it on the first meeting of the month in which it falls? I'm inclined to go based on what I've seen from other cities. If we're declaring April to be Child Abuse Awareness Month, we do that on our first city council meeting in the month of April. And so it matches up.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. So they'll give us a date and we'll kind of do it the way that works in our schedule. It needs to be in sufficient time. That's good. Include the draft proclamation language you like included. That's helpful to me if I'm drafting it. And again, this underscores we reserve the right to alter the wording of any requested proclamation. Alter the wording, not the meaning. Okay.
To go way back briefly to the 30-day notice, are we talking business days or just calendar days?
Calendar days.
Okay, and then a contact name, phone number, email address, mailing address. Would you like the final proclamation document sent should the requester or representative fail to attend the official proclamation? So that was a question that came up earlier. What if they're not here? We can still have a printed thing. Some cities require that the requester or representative be present. I'm not going to require that. I don't think that's necessary. These
I kind of like that language.
You like that?
Yeah, I think that if you're requesting that we take a considerable amount of time out of a meeting, possibly, that you're present for it.
Well,
you would normally have to come to speak at a meeting or be online.
Right.
But I think that on some level, your attendance should be recorded if we're going to take that amount of time and effort for the city.
All right. Should we have that requirement to be present?
My view is we need to meet people where they are. And a lot of these, Juneteenth, for instance, or honoring our houseless people, these are already individuals that might be timid coming into a government building. And I in no way, shape, or form want to pressure them to be here just to be honored.
Okay.
We also already do other things that take quite a bit of council time, like board appointments, and don't require people to be here for that.
All right. That's a Good observation. Councilor Blau, what's your position? Attendance or not in attendance?
Not in attendance.
Okay, so you're okay with them not requiring? Anybody else want to insist on attendance? Okay, well, I think you're in the minority on this again, but you express your view and I appreciate that. And I hope that people will see as time goes on, the value of being there. If again, getting a photo op or being able to say, you know, I did this is good for them. So, but we won't force it. So I think we've got some good information as far as the process. We have a form, a draft of a request form, and I'm sure it incorporates some of what we talked about, but you might have to adjust this to match what we came up on the other side to make sure that anything that in terms of formal requirements match what we've looked at.
Sure.
Now, as I said, and I have passed them out before the meeting, I've thought about a couple of different proclamations, one for the month of April for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I used some language that came from another place, from an organization that serves this community to prepare something. I also did one for Juneteenth, and actually this proclamation, the wording of this proclamation comes from the resolution on Juneteenth that was adopted by the city of Gladstone 4 years ago. It's almost all the same, except it doesn't make reference to adding it as a city holiday in Gladstone, because that was a one-time change to making it a legal holiday for our city. Councilor Huckabee, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going back to the request of proclamation form. There is italic verbiage down at the very bottom, about 3/4 of the way down. It says there's a limit to 2 proclamations per a regular city council meeting. And the selection is made by the request order received. Did we decide that that's what we're doing? We're only doing 2? Or are we going to gauge what the agenda looks like if we have a light agenda? Did we discuss that with?
I think we talked about maybe not reading more than 2.
Okay.
So
maybe reword that.
Yeah.
I'm totally comfortable.
A limit of 2 publicly read proclamations. We might add some wording like that just to make it clear what we're talking about.
Yeah. I would like to be flexible if we have a really light agenda.
Yes. Yeah. That
Or
we may limit it,
equally-
but we may not. Yeah.
Yeah, equally, does that mandate that we read too? Like if we have
No.
one of our 3.5-hour meetings?
I think this says there is a limit of 2. So,
Just so we had clarity.
yeah, and we would just add wording like in general, there's a limit of 2 or something. So that would give us a little bit of flexibility. Okay.
Mayor, can I ask another point of clarification? And this has to do with number 4 under the guidelines, because basically I struck out all of the red writing. But that also, did you want to allow an elected official to request a proclamation? Because I struck that out.
Yeah, I think if they meet the other criteria, an elected official may be the most appropriate one to bring something forward.
Like you just did, right?
Yes, yeah, like I did.
And I just want to be sure that we're being consistent. So I want to be clear that it is okay for an elected official to then request a proclamation for an agenda.
I did, the ones I brought, the sample ones I brought tonight did come to me as requests from other people, but I prepared them and brought them forward. But yes, I think I would hope that if we got into this process and began doing them, that maybe the council itself would be the place that would generate some that we might not otherwise know about. You might have a personal issue in your life, in your family, someone with a health condition, someone with that serves in a volunteer capacity in an important way, and you may know about that more than anyone else. And you say, hey, we don't have anything for the month of August. This is a good time for me to bring up my pet issue. And I have to be okay with that, I think.
I think the key word for me is request versus issue. I don't think we want to be allowing anybody willy-nilly to issue a proclamation.
No, not issue.
But I think, yeah, they should be able to request.
Okay. Councilor Roberts.
Administrator Betts, is it common to see a maximum amount of proclamation requests per person? I've seen a few of those, but
Yeah, I just know that our neighboring city, Milwaukee, is reconsidering because they've had so many on their agenda, but I haven't
That's
seen where
why I
they've
bring
done
it
a
up.
maximum for that. In all of my tenure here in Gladstone, I have not had one request for proclamation. Now that may change if a process is put in place. And I just respectfully say there's not 5 or 6, chomping to come before you. So I think a limit of 2 is fine. If you want, we'll modify that language. It says there's a limit of 2 publicly read. But for me, I'm still at number 4. And if I'm understanding correctly, then we have struck all of the red language tonight.
I think so. I
Okay.
think we're not going to be as restrictive as some cities. And I will say too, yes, go ahead, Chad.
Sorry, except that you want language in there that precludes these other boards and commissions from issuing proclamations.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go back to the issue wording instead of the request wording, and then we will still preserve some of that language in accordance with what we've said.
Is the first sentence capturing, there's been so many rewords, so sorry. Is the first sentence as is in our packet right now, accounting for organizations that do work and benefit our community members?
I have a caveat there that we are going to add organizations that benefit Gladstone residents, but we got to do some wordsmithing
Perfect,
there.
thank you.
And then I have one more thing.
Okay.
Typically, I'm not for mayor strong language, but I think this has kind of been an exception for me in my brief tenure on city council. But with that being said, is it worth, or maybe I'll just say personally, I think that this is probably something worth revisiting at the next election, given that we've sort of catered this language towards your personal preferences and how you would be willing to work with or modify based on your availability and timeline. So maybe it's just something I'll state, but it may be worth revisiting this at the next election or goal setting or whatever it may be, so that this language is consistent with the next council.
Okay, and we might even, if we get into doing that, and if we get a lot of requests, we may find a need to modify this procedure even before that. And it may be, I may find that if something comes up that, let's suppose it's an issue that, well, I'm going to just put it this way. Maybe a woman would be better to shape the language of it than a man would. And I might say, Councilor Mitchell, will you look this over and provide, and do some of the edits so that I can do it as mayor and make sure that I'm, not tone deaf on some of this. I'd reserve the right to do that. If it was something involving, your constituency, members in their 20s, let's say, and I can't think of a specific issue, but I might do that. Not forming a commission, just reaching out for help for you as a fellow counselor.
I have a feeling that's what Chad's raising his hand for.
Chad?
I was just gonna hopefully clarify this point for you all, that just keep in mind that this is the council as a body delegating authority to the mayor to engage in this process. And at any point in time, if the council as a body no longer believes that the mayor is adequately representing the city in this regard, you have the right at any time to change this policy. So you don't need any sort of formal requirement to review it. The council as a body can choose to do that at any point in time in the future. I think, well-deserved, there's a lot of trust in Mayor Milch. And, maybe there's a new mayor who comes along that the council doesn't have that same level of trust in, and they want to change the policy. That'll be the decision of the council as a body at any point in time. So don't feel like you're stuck with this, but at the same time, if you do decide to move forward, it's good to have these sort of guidelines in place to guide Mayor Milch or any other future mayor in sort of how the city is expecting them to act.
All right. As usual, Chad, your comments are very helpful. And Councilor Roberts, I appreciate your frankness about your feelings about this, and a willingness to let it work and see where we go. So Councilor Labonte.
I just want to clarify. So a request can go through can be, let's say, presented from a citizen through both the city staff and the mayor, or is it only to the mayor and then to the staff?
We have a form. It'll probably be put on the website. So it would probably, I would prefer that it maybe come to the city and the city let me know that it's there. It can be sent to me as mayor or to the city recorder. So we've given them those two options. And if it came to Tammy, she would make sure that I saw it, or maybe it would come to both. Well, the other thing I wanted to say is I get requests that I can tell are addressed to a mailing list of mayors everywhere. Okay, it's a not very specific, a Gladstone specific thing. That doesn't mean it's not a worthy cause, but it will mean more to me if it comes from somebody who I know is directing it to Gladstone and who mentions Gladstone and very specific local concerns. That will mean more to me in my selection of what I do than just responding to a mass mailing.
I think I'd probably be more comfortable with the request being strictly to the city and then distributed to you for the decision.
I don't mind. I'd rather get it and know in plenty of time how to plan my time around it. So
would there be much of a gap between receiving a request and the mayor being notified?
No, not unless the city recorder was out of the office for extended period of time. But typically we put who else that you can contact if she's not available.
And staff, do you have any preference?
I do not have any preference, but I'm fine as it goes to both or either. So we have good communication. I have no doubt that the mayor and city recorder and I could coordinate that. I just didn't want my name on there because I get a lot of email.
All right, we've spent a great deal of time on this. I think staff has some good guidance on language and other things, but I know that Councillor Huckabee has another comment or question.
It's really simple. Councillor Lawante, would you feel more comfortable if we change the word from or to and? I think people probably do that anyways, but at least the language would be there. Advising
I'm
them.
most comfortable with it going through the city. And then from there, I'm not sure if I have I'd say and would probably be accurate then. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Councillor Garland.
At the top of page 514, it says, or check the box if the proclamation will be the same as the previous year.
Oh, yeah, some cities have rules about that it won't be renewed automatically from year to year. You have to make a separate request. And if you already have, if we do a request for, National Chocolate Ice Cream Month for the people who give ice cream cones to indigent children, and we want to repeat it the next year, they don't have to submit it again. They can say you have it on file or something like that. So I think it provides that. They don't have to create a new one. We don't have to reinvent it from year to year. The same one might be used from year to year. It's that, where was that language? You said 15.5. Oh, okay.
15.4, I'm sorry.
15.4. Oh, check the box if the proclamation will be the same as the previous year. Yeah, I think other cities probably have a procedure like this because they do have a lot of repeat ones. Yes. We have not heard from the member of the public who asked to weigh in on this, and I want you to come and fill in any gaps that we've missed if you'd like to.
May I just have one last question before we do that, please?
Okay.
So they'd have to make a request and then we would use the proclamation from the prior year. We're not just
Yes,
re-upping.
that's
the
right.
request.
That's right. That we'd still apply the same criteria. If we say, well, we've got a couple more that are more important, we'll include that one in the something else. We won't necessarily read it. It'd be the same kind of thing, but it's just enables them to avoid reprinting it and all the rest.
So
Okay.
would you say that a new proclamation would take precedence reading out loud over a repeat?
As far as what I would take precedence, I don't want to, generalize.
Okay.
So that it's all going to be individual. Okay, Kelly Cheney is here. She requested to speak on this topic and she had some things to say. So go ahead. Push the button so that you will be heard.
My name's Kelly Cheney. I'm a resident of Gladstone. I moved here in 1972 and graduated from Gladstone High School and moved back with my daughter. She also graduated. So I'm a longtime resident. First, I appreciate the diligence. This discussion has been going on for 4 years. Just thought I'd remind the council that the Declaration of Independence was drafted in 2 weeks. But I appreciate the diligence and the details. So I sent this email before I knew you guys were this far along. It has just been something that, because of my involvement with the Juneteenth committee, was on my mind last year. And at that time, it was more important to work on the event than to have this argument with the council, which I think wouldn't have gone anywhere based on the comments I've heard tonight. So I'm glad you guys got this far without me. And I want to, just based on these comments, you've already read all this. I want to sort of maybe give more of a global, 30,000 foot view here. The concerns about proclamations is interesting, and the word controversial and things like that. And I think that if you just remember going forward with anything, my email was specifically about Juneteenth, but instead of, using your personal views about controversial or even citizens' views, it has to be this government language. It's a government voice. It has to be the views of Gladstone. So you guys have come together. You've come up with these great goals. I see visions and core values on the website. If the request for this proclamation lines up with those things, then I think there's a responsibility to go forward. If you just know John and Kathy over on Gloucester don't agree with it, that's not the point to draw the line in the sand with these things. If you want to change the core values of Gladstone, move forward and do that. But I don't think that proclamations is the place to do that. And they're important. If they weren't, then we wouldn't be having these long conversations. So we have to recognize why they're important. And I know I'm running out of time, but if I ask the mayor, can you walk me out to my car tonight because I'm afraid? That seems like a small thing, but he has a privilege, he has a power. And as a woman, I'm not safe, and he can come alongside me and do that simple act. And proclamations are a super simple act that some people might not understand. Like, why are we doing this? Why is it such a big deal? Well, you're not afraid to walk to your car, but as certain people are. And so these kinds of things just to celebrate too. It's not just about fear, but it's about celebration as well. Arbor Day might be important to some people. Trees are important, so everyone's going to have their subject and everyone's going to have their need. And so use the goals of Gladstone and the values of Gladstone when you make your decisions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I really appreciate that little analogy that you made at the end, because it is sometimes our giving a voice to people who don't have the privilege of that voice or the outlet for it. Sometimes we could be speaking on their behalf. Sometimes we could just be giving recognition that they wouldn't otherwise have. But the consistency with values is a very important way of looking at this. So I hope that our discussion tonight was helpful. I was going to send a reply to your email about things, but I'm glad you were able to be here and help us. Any other comments or response to that testimony regarding this agenda item?
Administrator Betts, are you still looking for consensus as to move forward with this?
I think that would be helpful tonight. Yes.
Okay. I'd say no.
Okay. All right. Other counselors, how do you feel about developing the process or making this our policy?
Absolutely, yes. I just want to thank Kelly Cheney for coming up here and speaking. Some people on this dais might just think that I'm up here from relaying things from my point of view, but I believe I'm the only counselor up here that is raised BIPOC children in this community. So my perspective is vastly different than any of yours. You didn't have to protect your children against racism or violence or school administration. You guys haven't had to do that. So it's just important to look at everybody's aspect, and especially coming from the people who these things affect.
All right. Other comments? Is the consensus? Council Roberts has made his position clear. Is it consensus from the rest of the council that we move forward with the revisions that we made and develop a policy and a procedure on this? I see heads nodding to the right of me.
May I?
Yes.
Councilor Huckabee, I am sorry that that is your experience. That sounds very difficult. And I feel what you're saying there. And I appreciate the comment of walking to the car, that put it in a good light, to help understand. In some ways, my mind is kind of, and I'm not taking that away from anybody or any of these causes. I feel it, I believe it. I'm looking quite logistically, and how do we get the word out? So currently we get the word out through our newsletter, which reaches way more people than we reach on here when we do our meetings. And going back to our, and my comment is, I don't have a strong view necessarily one way or the other, just the logistics and how do we get the word out? How do we make people feel safer? I took some time to look back at some of the views from our council meetings, see exactly how many people are watching what we do. The newsletter's out there, that's great. We can put these causes out there. You know, we look at February 25th, we had 21 views. January 14th, we had 32. December was a big month, we had 72 views. In November, we had 52 of 2024. In October, we had 41. August, again, was a big month at 74. And then to 39 and to 28. My concern is still that I understand a lot of cities do it. I understand Milwaukee's thinking about pulling away from it. So I do want to help any community that needs help. I think it's important for us. I want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is, I wish I was more confident that us making the proclamation here is achieving what the goal is, what we would want it to be, of which I feel. Please don't, see these comments in some other way. But it literally for me, it's the logistics of the proclamation, of the kind of the decisions that the mayor will have the privilege of making, and just the sheer numbers of, is 28 people enough in a YouTube video to really make the difference? I'm not totally sure. And that's I guess my comment for now.
All right, thank you. Other comments? Councilor Garlington, you want to weigh in your thoughts on going ahead with procedure or not? Or
All right, the first thing I was thinking when Councilor Labonte was saying about who sees it, and I was thinking to myself, where's the biggest audience? And I have been to the lunches at the community center. There's your biggest audience. If you want to talk about it. I think that I would support verbiage to allow our mayor to go forth with proclamations on him, on you, because this is your choice. It's obviously going to happen. I'm not against them. I just worry about the time commitment. And would you be willing to read them at the senior center or at the community center?
you know.
Yeah,
order to be.
that's a good suggestion. There may be other places or any time we want to print them in the city newsletter, so it gets out to more people. The in-person reading may not touch as many people now, but I've also heard people suggest that if it gives a group a reason to come to a meeting because they know that the proclamation that they requested is going to be read, and maybe they also have something else on the agenda tonight about the way they're serving our community or people in need in our community, then I could think of a positive thing and may reverse some of that trend. People commented, we don't have as many people in attendance as we did, but some of the people we had in attendance before were people that, frankly, some on the council probably wish they weren't there because they were a little troubling. So I would like people who are in attendance at the meeting because they feel that they are supported by the council and the goals of the council and the values of the council. And I think a way to kind of connect those together could be to do this. So I'm in favor of us going ahead. We will learn from the experience. I may need some help. I may not do a great job. The next mayor, whoever he or she may be, may do a better job or may decide that's not part of what we do in city government. But for now, I think I want to give it a try because as I mentioned in some settings, we've gotten through some of our big infrastructure projects and buildings and things like now. Now the other task of government is help to weave the social fabric of the community. And I think this is one tool we have for doing it. And like we say, in a lot of situations, you don't want to take away those tools from your toolbox. You want to have another tool in your toolbox to do something that could accomplish that. I pledge to you, I'm not going to use it in an arbitrary way or a way that, and I have a pretty good sensitivity to what creates the kind of conflict and friction in the community that's not good for a community. And so I will try to use good judgment, and I would appreciate any feedback you have for me if you don't think I did. But that's part of the role that I was elected to do. Citizens who are used to having a mayor do proclamations in other cities may move to this city and say, why isn't the mayor doing them? So if that's an expectation, even if it's not officially part of the structure of our government in the way we do, I'm not the mayor of Portland who has a bigger podium than I do. I still want your trust and to have that opportunity. And so I appreciate what I'm hearing as a consensus of support. So I'm going to ask staff to come back with revised language for us to adopt as an official policy that we can then put on the city website to make this avenue available. And it is my intention to bring forward the proclamation that I prepared for the month of April. And we will also, in the month of April, also have another proclamation regarding Arbor Day, because that's a requirement of our city, Tree City USA. And we did a resolution last year that proclaimed Arbor Day, and we can change, you could use the same language, and perhaps the organization has provided us with new language for this year. But either way, that will happen as well. So we'll look for that at the beginning of our April agenda.
Mayor, am I allowed to make one comment, or do I need to send another email?
I'll let you say one more thing. Go ahead. Go ahead. We're at a far more informal way of doing things right now.
Regarding how proclamations are used, I request the proclamation every year for the Oregon Paralegal Association. And it's not just like read into the record. We blow it up at our convention. People see it and say, oh, the governor of Oregon supports paralegals. So you use the Juneteenth proclamation to show the people, look, Gladstone is behind you. We're behind our citizens of color, and we support you, and we support this event. And we're not afraid to say, yes, we support an event that celebrates the end of slavery. I mean, it's used in more different ways. It's just not 22 people. Also, if you come with that openness, then more than 22 people are probably going to start clicking on. Right now, I think as a whole, the community feels super closed off from the council. And because of this, I mean, like I said, 4 years of proclamations being blocked and still resistance. So it's not very inviting. People don't want to click on to see what you have to say. And if they see something else, they'll start clicking. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. I will say that I did share the draft resolution for Juneteenth, which is really based on a proclamation that the council did adopt, a resolution that the council adopted on this. And Kelly commented that her favorite paragraph in this, or favorite line in this, was the same one that I like. Juneteenth is a day of reflection, a day of renewal. It is a moment in time to appreciate not only the Black and African American experience, but it is inclusive of all races, ethnicities, and nationalities. And I think that it probably would be my practice in doing any kind of a proclamation related to an ethnic group or community to make a similar kind of statement at the end. That is one time that we remember that even though we on the council represent one segment of our society, that we are a very diverse community, and that we need to be inclusive of everyone. I believe that's the end of our agenda. We will have business from the council. I need to look at the minutes from last time and see which order we went so that
Mayor, we need to have business from the audience.
Oh, that's right. We do. Okay. Do we have anyone online or in person who has requested to speak from business from the audience? I apologize for getting ahead of myself. Go
We
ahead.
had someone request to speak, but I do not see them in the audience or online.
Okay, it was a long meeting tonight, so I apologize to that person. Maybe there'll be another opportunity in the future. Okay, business from the council. I will start with Councilor Garlington and just move in from right to left, or your left to right.
Are you pointing at me?
Yes, I said Councilor I looked at you and said Councilor Garlington.
I was like, okay.
Councilor Huckabee, I apologize. Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's late. It's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Yep. One of our longer meetings for sure. I have some more comments about this. We utilize social media a lot in this community. Most communities do. So we're completely leaving that out of this discussion on how we reach people with this information. And I would also say that if it's 20 people or 48 people or 74 people, those people also know people, and they go and they discuss this. And they're like, guess what I heard? Look at this, look at this. And so you're reaching a bigger audience than what you're seeing number-wise on a YouTube channel. I'll say that. Let's see, what else do I have? I don't really have a lot actually tonight. I just want to share that next meeting, which is our not executive session, sorry, work session. I know that there's going to be a presentation from Representative Hartman, and I'm so excited about that. I may be online or I may not be there because I will be out of the state. But I hope that's a really great meeting. I want to thank Miss Janie for staying for this meeting for so long, because I know public comment comes at the end and it can prevent people from saying what they want to say because it's just not timely. So thank you for that. I also want to remind everybody that it is National Women's History Month. So please take time to honor and appreciate the women in your life. I just also want to notate that women do not need to have high-level titles to be strong women in this world. It doesn't matter if you're a mayor or a VP or an executive director, a counselor, a commissioner, a founder of an organization. It doesn't matter. All women deserve to be celebrated and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mitchell.
I just wanted to bring forward that the Gladstone Library Foundation is seeking new members. They had a few people leave at the end of their terms, and now they're looking for more membership on their board. You can contact the library if you're interested, or you can contact myself and I will send your information on to the foundation.
Thank you. Councilor Blau.
Yeah, also wanted to say that it is in fact Women's History Month. And the theme is moving forward together, women in education and inspiring generations. So if you know a woman who is a teacher in any form, this might be a good time to thank them. Also, I wanted to say that there is a town hall happening on Sunday, March 16th at 5:30 at the Clackamas Community College Gym. Senator Ron Wyden and Representative Janelle Bynum will be there. And then also, if you were interested in volunteering to help get a farmer's market going in Gladstone, that I suggest that you contact LT at High Rocks. There's a group going who's trying to put that together. And for those of us who love fresh vegetables, that is an awesome thing. Other than that, thank you.
All right. And for clarification, that's the High Rocks restaurant.
Restaurant, yes.
Okay.
Also,
Not down on the rocks.
not down on the rocks, yes. Also, I wanted to point out that the date in the council agenda planning, i.e. April 14th, is incorrect. And that you should all just do that on the normal time that we do it.
Yeah, I believe it is the 8th would be our normal council meeting. Okay. Councilor Labonte.
Sure, just go, as the traffic safety liaison, I'm excited that we have a full board now. We talking about views on YouTube. We're gonna have a guest speaker, the Traffic Advisory Board, from Clackamas County, talking about different traffic safety initiatives in the state. So that'll be coming up at some date. We're kind of working through that now. Pretty excited about that. And just a quick shout out to the Cracksburger choir, of which my daughter sang tonight. I was unable to be there, but I know they worked really hard, and I just wanted to make sure to give them a shout out. So thank you.
That was the biggest frustration when my grandchildren were in those, that a lot of the music things happen on Tuesday nights.
That's
So
exactly right.
sorry for you that you missed that.
Thank you.
Nothing to share. I just appreciate my opportunity to sit on this council and continue to represent across the county, meet with different people, and I look forward to all those opportunities and continue to cherish my time getting to do that. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roberts. Councilor Garlington.
Councilor Roberts and I had a very good meeting with Clackamas Fire, and he got to meet all of the people that sit at the table and make life a lot easier for Gladstone folk. In fact, I saw a post on Nextdoor. There was a fire, and everybody that commented just said how secure they felt that Clackamas Fire had our backs. And when you see things like that, it makes our decisions that we make that much more validated. And I do want to say really quick, when this council makes a decision, regardless of whether or not I agree with it, if I'm in it 50%, if I'm in it 75%, once that decision's made, I'm in it 100% with everyone else. Never, ever think that I'm not. I'm not sure. Can we say congratulations to you? Congratulations to Councilor Labonte on his appointment to the school board.
Thank you.
Which on Wednesday you'll be sworn in.
Yep.
Good on you. Friday, March 21st is the Rotary bingo, and Fognap is the partner. We'll have raffle baskets and things like that. It'll be a good time. So if you're not doing anything on that Friday night, come on down. The Arbor Day plant sale is April 26th. It is a Saturday from 9 to 3, 360 minutes to buy as many plants as you possibly can. And I know that there are staff in Gladstone that came back and came back and came back, and we appreciate every one of them that did that. I did see that it was National Women's History Month, and a woman invented the dishwasher. Just want y'all to know that. So that when you look at your dishwasher and you're loading it again, and I work for a women-owned business. The person that I work for has owned that business for 35 years. I've worked for her for 33 of it. Although she happens to be my sister, she is probably one of the strongest people I know. So kudos to you, Angela. And the Rotary still needs volunteers for the August Festival. So if you're still listening at 9:03 p.m., please click your button on the Rotary website, sign up for 1 hour. They give you a bottle of water. I think, you get a hot dog or something. They just need help. It's not hard. You don't have to know anybody. You do a bouncy house and you talk to a whole bunch of kids and they love the fact that you're standing there. Please just help them out. That's all.
I've had a busy week. Today was the third school day in a row that I volunteered at our schools. It was Everybody Reads Day last Friday, and I did mock interviews with mostly, I think they were all high school seniors yesterday and again this morning. It's a great opportunity to hear from, well, just to look at the look in the eyes of elementary school ages kids on Everybody Reads Day, particularly the ones that are wearing costumes of their favorite book characters, is a lot of fun. But with the high school, you really get this sense of hope and positivity about the future for young people who are already thinking in terms of lifelong careers and ways of serving their community and ways of learning what they've learned through their extracurricular activities and their academic programs in Gladstone. Some of them have been here since kindergarten. Some of them are new to the community, but they all feel very supported by our school system. And it's great that we have volunteers. I saw Councilor Huckabee there too, and others that I know. So it's great to have those opportunities. I went to a little listening session with mayors from all across our congressional district, CD5, represented by Janelle Bynum last Saturday. I took the bus to get there. My wife needed the car to get our daughter who lives way in North Portland. I knew she wouldn't be back in time, and I boarded the 33 bus. I got a great view. If you ever get on that bus, going south into Oregon City, sit on the right-hand side so you can see the remnants of the fire that was in the the paper mill across there. That's the best view of it you'll ever get. And then it took me right to Oregon City's City Hall Police Station building and had a good session with our Congresswoman. And cities across the state are dealing with a lot of issues, most of them having to do with water infrastructure. Mayors were there from Malala and Sisters and Bend, mostly online, not necessarily in person. And I had an opportunity, what day was it? Yesterday? Yesterday, I did the State of the City address for the Kiwanis Club. And I referenced the fact that we are very fortunate, as Councilor Roberts certainly knows, because of his work in the water-related groups in our community, and me as a member of the advisory board for Water Environment Services of Clackamas County. We have a pretty good water system and water infrastructure and support system for this region. A lot of other cities aren't as well off as we are. And when you talk to somebody who lives in a city of 900 people about paying millions and millions of dollars for improved water, you really know that you're really glad that you live in Gladstone. You know, we have things that we need to work on here too, and we'll work on those. But the support we have from staff, from our partners across the county, from good relationships with other cities, really strengthens us. I was appointed to be the urban cities representative on the executive committee for C4, which means nothing more than I have another half-hour meeting to help set an agenda. But I think the relationships that we have with other cities in Clackamas County really strengthens us. I've commented in other settings. Portland is a very big city, and it's the majority of Multnomah County, and they don't work as well together up there as we do here in Clackamas. And we have some issues of leadership to resolve at the county commission level, but there's a good process now for doing that. And I'm hopeful that we will have a smooth transition to new leadership and continue some of the goals of this county in addressing some of the big issues that we have. So thank you all for working hard on this tonight, for taking half our meeting with one agenda item. And I apologize that it wasn't business from the audience. It was the agenda item was at the very end that you wanted to speak on. But I'm grateful to Chad and to Jackie for working with us on this and for helping to put this into place. So I think that's all we have. I'm going to adjourn at 9:07 p.m. We are adjourned.